Welcome to Hank's Place. Paul in 2 Corinthians 10, 4 and 5 writes, "For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for the pulling down of strongholds, the casting down of arguments, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ." This is really awesome, dear friends. Paul is writing to Christians, mind you, Christians who, like us, are tempted to think in a worldly manner and to employ worldly methods in an effort to accomplish God's purposes. Paul reminds them and us that we are different. We live in a different kingdom, God's kingdom, ruled by King Jesus, and that our weapons are not like those of the world. We have been given spiritual weapons, and it's those spiritual weapons that are needed for the spiritual warfare that surrounds us all. Most people think of carnal, worldly weapons as things like guns and swords, but Paul was referring to the world's manipulative and deceitful practices. In Ephesians 6, Paul listed the spiritual weapons that he used: the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the shoes of the gospel, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit. When voices all around us shout, "Do something, act, take things into your own hands, smear your opponents, tell lies, bully people, coerce, manipulate," instead of listening to them, we rely on the spiritual weapons, and that takes faith in God. Paul reminds us they're mighty in God, though. They actually work. David Gussick, the author of the Enduring Word Commentary, points out that Christians often rely on and admire carnal weapons for the Christian battle. Belt of truth, let's use manipulation. Breastplate of righteousness, how about the image of success? Shoes of the gospel, let's use smooth words. Shield of faith, how about the perception of power? Helmet of salvation, how about lording it over other people? Sword of the Spirit, no, let's employ human schemes and human programs. Remember, these Corinthian Christians had the strongholds in their own minds. They made the arguments against God's mind and God's methods. They held on to every high thing that was exalting itself against the knowledge of God in their own mind. We miss it if we think that the love of manipulation, the image of success, those smooth words, perception of power, the practice of lording it over others, and human schemes and programs are just problems that unbelievers face. The carnal human way is to overpower, dominate, manipulate, and outmaneuver. Sounds familiar, just listen to the news. But the spiritual Jesus way is to resist the enemy, to humble ourselves, realize our identity in Christ as righteous, truthful, new creations, cease being I-centered, and let God demonstrate His resurrection power through us. When we fight with our spiritual weapons, casting down those strongholds, we cannot be defeated. In fact, we come alive.